Young Turks, Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian with you guys. How you doing, Casper?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there.
All right, good to hear, good to hear. Look, fun and exciting things happening all over the TYT network. Is it true that Nina Turner's new show On Boss started today at 4 p.m. Eastern? You're damn right it did.
I guess.
I guess. Okay, we don't have to guess, it already happened. So she had a spectacular first guest. You'll never guess who it was. Was it me? I guess. It already happened,
Yeah,
it was
course.
me. Okay, anyways.
You can't help yourself. You can't help yourself.
Not.
But to be fair, you are the head of the company.
To be fair.
You get to be the first guest every time we launch a new show.
I get to be, yes. Okay, so anyways, guys, youtube.com/unbosstyt. You're gonna love Nina's new show. Check it out, part of the TYT network now. All right, speaking of the TYT network, Casper, I hear we have news.
We do. We begin with some foreign policy news, some international news, and I want to talk about what's currently transpiring with Elon Musk and Ukraine. It's a perfect story to kind of encapsulate the issue with relying on private companies to do what government should probably be doing. And so let's get right to it. Elon Musk threatened to cut Ukraine off from the internet that he and his company has been providing to the country since the early weeks of Russia's invasion. Now, later after putting out these threats, he seemed to suggest that he was backtracking, although his tweet backtracking seemed to be a little sarcastic. So let me set this all up and then tell you what the real motivation was behind this whole issue. So on Friday, senior US officials confirmed that Musk had officially asked the Defense Department to take over funding for the service Starlink provides in Ukraine. Starlink, which provides broadband internet service using more than 2,200 low orbiting satellites, has provided crucial battlefield communications for the Ukrainian military forces since early in the nation's defense against Russia's February invasion. So that's the background. That is what Elon Musk has provided for Ukraine in an effort to help them defend themselves against this Russian invasion. And then all of a sudden, he starts kind of complaining about it, complaining about the fact that the technology and the services that he donated to Ukraine since the early weeks of the Russian invasion isn't making him any money. It's costing him money, it's not making him any money. And so later, after he had threatened to cut Ukraine off, he put out this tweet: "The hell with it, even though Starlink is losing money and other companies are getting billions of taxpayer money, we'll just keep funding Ukraine government for free." Okay, so I assume what he's referring to there is the endless number of private defense contractors who get to become incredibly wealthy through our taxpayer money as we engage in conflicts abroad or as we help with military funding abroad, as is the case with Ukraine. Now, again, earlier he had tweeted that the assistance to Ukraine was costing SpaceX $20 million a month. And again, it sounds like he's angling for some sort of military contract with the State Department. And what's also fascinating about this is a quote tweet that he had, okay? And he quote tweeted David Sachs. David Sachs had written an op-ed for Newsweek titled "Neocons and the Woke Left are joining hands and leading us to woke World War III." Elon Musk quote tweeted that and said, "Exceptionally well said." So at this point, as I'm learning about this story, as I'm investigating this story, Cenk, I'm thinking to myself, oh, Elon Musk, who loves to rub shoulders with all sorts of right wingers, who love to provide pro-Russian propaganda within the confines of the United States, has been sucked into that propaganda. That's what this is about. But no, I actually don't think this is about Elon Musk being yet another bitch boy for Vladimir Putin and Russian propagandists. I think this is actually about venture capitalists who invested in the company, who don't like the fact that they're not maximizing their profits through this wonderful capitalistic opportunity in Ukraine. So I went into David Sachs's piece, and I want to read you a little bit from the piece. Let's skip ahead to graphic 5 here. The president of Ukraine himself, Vladimir Zelensky, accused Musk of supporting Russia, even though Musk's company, SpaceX, donated Starlink to Ukraine's war effort at an out-of-pocket cost of $80 million. So numbers change, which is fascinating. And then he includes this disclosure, which is incredibly important. Full disclosure, Musk is a friend and I am an investor in SpaceX. So in other words, we should be getting a government contract for this. Why isn't the Defense Department paying us for it? And sure enough, later in the day today, I found out that Pentagon is considering paying for Starlink in Ukraine, according to 2 US officials, Politico reports. Okay, so the point I want to make here is we keep hearing about how we should privatize all sorts of government services, right? We should rely on the whims of billionaires and millionaires to do charity, to help people out when they desperately need the help. But how about no? How about no? We shouldn't rely on the whims of incredibly wealthy individuals who at the end of the day always have the same objective, which is to maximize profits. And I think this is another instance that we can point to, another case study we can point to that proves just that.
Yeah, I'm going to shock the world a little bit here by agreeing with Elon. And then there's going to be twists and turns, so buckle up, okay? Yes, I just did this, like buckle up. So number one, should the US government pay for this instead of Elon Musk? Yeah, US government is sending billions of dollars to defense contractors to sometimes arm Ukraine and sometimes pretend they're arming Ukraine. So that's a complicated question we've tackled before on the show. But if they're spending all those billions of dollars, why does Elon Musk have to go out of his own pocket to do it? Okay, but here's the next twist, which is that no one likes punching themselves in the face more than Elon Musk does. So here you are spending whatever the number is, whether it's 20 million a month, 80 million overall, it's in the same ballpark, right? It's a lot of money. And you actually should get credit for that. That's a lot of money to spend out of pocket, even if you're a gazillionaire, as he is, and the world's richest man, etc., to help the people of Ukraine. You could kind of be a folk hero there because the Starlink is actually helping them a lot in fighting against the Russians. But instead, he finds a way to make himself the bad guy. Like, oh, what the hell, man? Why am I paying for this? And like weird, whiny ways, and then like in ways that make you think, wait, is he on the side of the Russians? No, he's actually helping the Ukrainians a lot, but somehow he's managed to anger the Ukrainians for no reason, and thereby ruining any kind of like publicity he could have earned as a good guy here, which would have been fair. So there's something wrong with him, man. And look, as we've seen with Kanye,
let me jump in.
Like one just last thing here. Sure. A lot of times when people see really wealthy folks who are not perfectly balanced, a lot of crooks and con men swarm in to get a piece of the pie, right? And then they start to influence them in all the wrong directions, as we saw with, like I said, with Kanye. So I don't know if this is one of those, but he's getting terrible advice from people pretending to be his friend.
I mean, look, I remember what the early weeks of this war was like. And I remember Elon Musk wanting to pat himself on the back for engaging in this like charitable contribution to help Ukrainians defend themselves. And the issue that I have is with this whole debacle that unfolded over the weekend and spilled over into today, just say what you want. Just say it, just say it. You want to get paid, which is fine, that's totally fine. But it's also important to keep in mind that the whole notion of like mutual aid, especially when it comes to domestic policy here in the United States, when you hear libertarians specifically say that we don't need these government programs, we don't need a social safety net because people can rely on churches, they can rely on mutual aid, they can rely on charities that are funded by millionaires and billionaires. No, that is not a stable system. And when it comes to the actual motivations of individuals, it's far more complicated. With Elon Musk, he wanted the kudos that come along with donating this technology to Ukraine. And then once he realized, oh wait, this is actually a money-making opportunity, and I have venture capitalists invested in this technology who are looking for a return on their investment, he tries to go about this in such a weird roundabout way. And it's so disingenuous, it's so insincere, it's inauthentic. And I think that's what also stands out to me about this. Just tell us what you really want. And it's to get the government contract. You think it's unfair that all of these other companies, all these defense contractors are making a ton of money off this war. It is a redistribution of wealth from the bottom of the top. You want to tap into that. So just be honest about it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong about that. I just think that, Look, he deserves credit for giving them Starlink for free. The person who cost him that credit is himself, because he went about it in all the wrong ways, and he makes it seem like he's on the other side, which makes no sense at all. Why are you ruining it when you were doing a perfectly good thing? And of course, it's partly the investors, but to be fair to the investors, if somebody was giving away $80 million of my money, I'd be like, wait, especially when the government just gives it to people, defense contractors, all the time. It's not an unfair ask to say, hey, why are we doing it for free when no one else is? So, but it comes back to the bad advice he's getting. And so, it's interesting how really smart people can be really dumb in different ways, right? It doesn't mean they're not smart. It's just that the mind works in different ways for different folks. So they could be really good at something and really bad at other things. Like David Sachs is an amateur. He's a hack in Silicon Valley. But Silicon Valley folks don't know anything about politics, and they're almost all Republicans, and their number one driving factor is greed. And so when David Sachs comes around and goes, oh, did you know the Republicans are really great? And the Democrats are doing woke war 3. People like Elon Musk are like, exceptionally well said. Is it? It was just a stupid pun or whatever the hell that was. And by the way, none of these guys ever explain what it means to be woke. It's just whenever they hear the word woke, they're like, oh, he said woke, exceptionally well said. So yeah, when it comes to
it's just a catch-all phrase now for the right wing.
What's that?
Yeah, it's just a catch-all phrase now for right wingers when they want to talk about something they dislike. It doesn't matter what it is, even if it has absolutely nothing to do with the left. Like the left, I mean, there's been mixed commentary and analysis from the left when it comes to what should be done when it comes to Ukraine. My view is, well, we had a commitment and a responsibility to Ukraine when we got them to give up their nuclear weapons, which of course is a deterrent when it comes to Russia invading them. We offered them security commitments, but I do think that it's time to really question, like, when does that military industrial complex gravy train come to an end? Like, how many billions and billions of dollars in military aid packages are we gonna send to Ukraine? When is it gonna be enough? I think that's a legitimate question to have.
Yeah, so last thing on that is, look, don't mistake what I'm saying for, yeah, sure, have at it. Spend billions more on Ukrainian defense through Raytheon and Northrop Grumman, et cetera. So no, we've given a ton of money, and a lot of it is so that those companies can replenish their stock, as we've already sent old weapons to Ukraine. And some of them are great, don't get me wrong, but it's not like they're making them and sending them. We've discussed this before. So if people want to say, hey, enough's enough, okay, that's an interesting and important debate for us here in America. But leaving Elon Musk out and having everybody else make money while he loses money, I agree, is irrational. He just desperately needs better PR and better political advice. But among the greedy pricks that live with him in Silicon Valley, that is very, very unlikely.
Well, let's move on to some other greedy pricks, and that's corporate politicians, including those in the Democratic Party, who are really hurting themselves with this upcoming midterm election. Democrats appear to be in a lot of trouble. According to the latest poll from the New York Times and Siena, they're looking into how voters feel about both parties as we quickly approach the midterm elections. And something that should be incredibly unsurprising to everyone, but especially the Democratic Party, is that the majority of voters are mainly concerned with the economy more than any other issue, including the fact that women just had their reproductive rights stripped away from them. Now, according to this New York Times Siena poll, 49% of likely voters said that they plan to vote for a Republican to represent them in Congress on November 8th, compared with 45% who plan to vote for a Democrat. Now, this is not good news because the result represents an improvement for Republicans since September, when Democrats held a 1-point edge among likely voters in the last Times Siena poll. So the voters are asked, what is your number one concern? What is the top priority? And of course, the economy was number one. Other issues didn't even come close. In fact, when it comes to Republicans, they cited the economy by a 2-to-1 margin. And so, as the Times also writes, with inflation unrelenting and the stock market steadily on the decline, the share of likely voters who said economic concerns were the most important issues facing America has leaped since July to 44% from 36%, which is far higher than any issue, as I mentioned earlier. And there's even more bad news. So that poll showed that Republicans actually opened up a 10% point lead among crucial independent voters, compared with a 3-point edge for Democrats in September, as undecided voters moved toward Republicans. So what we're really having a conversation about isn't individuals who typically identify as hardcore Democrats or hardcore Republicans. We're mostly focusing on those independent voters. And when it comes to independent voters, not looking good for Democrats. And also the largest swing noticed in this poll was among independent female voters. This is what was really interesting to me, especially when you consider the reversal of Roe v. Wade. In September, they favored Democrats by 14 points. Now, independent women backed Republicans by 18 points. And one of those women is a 37-year-old who spoke to the Times. Her name is Robin Ackerman, registered Democrat, but this time around she plans to vote for Republicans in the midterm election. She says, I'm shifting more toward Republican because I feel like they're more geared toward business, said Robin Ackerman, a 37-year-old Democrat and mortgage loan officer who lives in Newcastle, Delaware. Ackerman said she disagreed 1000% with the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade and erase the national right to an abortion. But that doesn't really have a lot to do with my decision, she said, of her fall vote. I'm more worried about other things. And Cenk, this is what I feel like I repeat on the show often. While the culture war is important to engage in for human rights reasons, for civil rights reasons, for all of that, what really gets the voters out to the polls is the economy. What's going on with their pocketbooks? What's going on with their bank accounts? What's going on with gas prices, inflation? And I don't think the Democrats have done a good enough job disproving that Republicans would be better for the economy.
Yeah, it's almost all over now. So I was interviewed by Fox News 5 days ago. Hasn't come out yet. And when they asked me, who do you think is going to win the House? I said, I don't know. You need more data. Well, more data has come in. So now the elections are only about 2 weeks out. Democrats used to have a 1-point lead. Now they have a 4-point deficit. So a 5-point swing at the national level is devastating because, and there's only one thing that could rescue them. I'm going to get to that in a second. Because we're not talking about a local race or even a state race where you could have more wild swings. At a national level, those swings get ironed out because there's a lot more people. And so the numbers become a little bit more reliable. So the districts are deeply gerrymandered, but still a 5-point swing near the end of the election will make a giant difference in anything that's close to a swing district. So the Democrats are almost definitely going to lose the House now. So is it an outlier poll? I suppose so. I say almost because you would need a couple more polls to confirm this, and you need to get a little bit closer to the election. But we're pretty damn close. So what could rescue them? Well, what could rescue them is an all-out assault in the last 2 weeks on the Republicans on the issue of the economy. Will the Democrats do that? No, there's no chance they'll do that. So that's why we're pretty much doomed. So they barely mentioned the economy at all. Why? Because of 2 reasons. One, they're not very bright. Okay, so I'll get to that more in depth in a minute. But I say they're not bright in this context because, well, if 44% of the voters say that the economy is the number one issue, and that issue wins by a landslide, abortion coming in at 7%, you would think that you would want to talk about the economy in your ads, and they're running almost no ads on the economy. Why? Because they drank the Republican Kool-Aid. They think the Republicans have a huge advantage on the economy. Why would the Republicans have an advantage on the economy? Now, I get it. Biden's in charge, Democrats are in charge in way of high inflation, right? But you don't have to just stop the analysis there. Well, what would help the average American with high inflation? Well, if they had higher wages, that would help, right? Because then you could pay for all that stuff that costs more now. Well, good news, theoretically in the Democratic agenda, you got $15 minimum wage, which would raise the wages of not just people making minimum wage, who are all working Americans, but it would also create pressure to raise everybody else's rates and wages. So now what would that create? That would create all of television and Fox News and the Republicans yelling at you, higher wages is terrible, we need lower wages. Boom, you got them, and you win. It's that simple, but they won't do it because they're not that bright. But more importantly, the second reason, because their donors own them. So if they talked about higher wages, their donors, the Democratic donors, would bite their heads off. Anna, as you say all the time, the Republicans have done nothing for the economy, and they propose nothing for the economy. You could slaughter them on that issue if you actually bothered to fight, but the Democrats never ever do.
I mean, the reason why Republicans are getting even more like grotesque and outrageous in their manufactured culture wars, like now the fear mongering about furries using litter boxes in school bathrooms, is because they will talk about anything other than the fact that they have absolutely no plan to make the economy better for ordinary working Americans. They don't want to address the fact that the ideas they have, including, by the way, a story I covered last Wednesday, their current plan to privatize Social Security and cut funding to Medicare, they don't want to talk about that out in the open. So they lean into the fear mongering and the culture wars. And when Democrats allow them to frame the debate, frame the argument, think about how it plays out over and over again. The only thing Democrats can do in trying to engage in the culture war debate is scold them, right? Scold them as racists and bigots. And if you're an ordinary American struggling with inflation, unable to pay for the insanely expensive gas prices at the pump, unable to pay for the inflated costs of food, if you've seen your retirement savings slashed as a result of the stock market suffering right now, you don't care about Democrats wanting to scold people for being racist and bigots. You want to know, okay, is anyone going to do anything for me? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the anger and the frustration is understandable. And I think, Cenk, I'm going to tweak your argument on one thing, which is no, the number one reason why Democrats allow Republicans to frame the debate on culture war issues, and the reason why they don't force Republicans to talk about the economy, is because of the corruption. I think that the fact that corporate interests have completely taken over the majority of politicians, both on the Democratic side and Republican side, is incredibly detrimental to the American electorate.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. That's definitely number one. Being stupid is a distant second to why they're not fighting on this. In fact, here, let's just fill in the rest of the blanks here. They had paid family leave. That was in their agenda. It polls at over 80%. It polls at over 70% for Republican voters. It's a layup, biggest layup in American history. So what do you do with it? You propose it it was in Build Back Better. The Republicans killed it. First of all, you should say in all your ads, the Republicans killed paid family leave. Monsters. They want you to go back to the mines and to the assembly lines and back to Walmart, where you work the day after you deliver. That's accurate, right? And paid family leave is super popular. Child tax credit was intensely popular. The Republicans killed it, the Republicans killed it, the Republicans killed it. Now, of course, the reason why they don't do all that stuff is exactly what we explained. Look, paid family leave, they can do that right now. Why? I mean, this goes back to corrupt and stupid. If you put it, okay, it didn't get through and Build Back Better, just do it as a standalone bill. Well, every Republican would vote no, and then you would get 4 out of 5 voters really mad that they voted no, and you could use that in all your ads. So why didn't the Democrats propose it as a standalone bill? It's a layup, right? Right? These guys claim, they're not playing 4-dimensional chess. And idiot news actors on television say the same thing. No, they don't even know how to play 1-dimensional checkers. They're like, So why didn't they do paid family leave as a standalone bill? Because their donors told them not to. They said no, that would cost business interests a couple of cents. So you are to disarm against the Republicans. Shut up and take your losses. And that leads me to my final point, which is, look, the person running for Congress doesn't want to lose, right? So, and the news actor doesn't know he's a news actor. He thinks he's a news anchor. So, but at the very top, do the donors that give to both Republicans and Democrats want the Democrats to lose at least one branch of Congress so they go back to doing absolutely nothing? Of course they do, right? So tons of Democratic donors are not going to be that upset if they lose the House. That's going to work out really great for them, actually. So we're getting exactly what the donors wanted, as happens every single time, because our system is based on bribery. They're allowed to simply bribe the politicians, and we call them campaign contributions, and we would go round and around playing this kabuki theater, which is total nonsense.
Absolutely right about that. We're gonna take a break, but when we come back, turns out that Roger Stone had some choice words for Donald Trump and his family members in 2021. We've got some footage of what he had to say and more coming right up.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Forward.
Let's get right to Roger Stone, who apparently had a falling out with Trump.
I'm going to go public supporting impeachment. I have no choice. He has to go. He has to go. Run again. You'll get your brains beat in.
You just heard from a close Trump confidant, Roger Stone, who apparently was not too happy about Trump and the fact that Trump refused to pardon him after the January 6th riots took place. Now, Roger Stone, of course, is being investigated for his involvement in the January 6th Capitol riots. But even though Trump had pardoned him previously for his other criminal charges having to do with obstruction of justice, lying to Congress, and tampering with a witness, he just didn't pardon Roger Stone after January 6th. Now, for those of you wondering, well, where's that footage from? I should note that it was filmed on January 20th of 2021. So obviously a few weeks after the January 6th riots took place. The footage was released on Saturday, this past weekend, by Danish filmmaker Christopher Goldbrensen, whose team was granted permission to shadow Stone for more than 2 years, including during the months when Stone was working behind the scenes to aid Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 election. You know, I remember, Cenk, when Roger Stone was the topic of a Netflix documentary that really painted him as this incredible genius. And I feel like the filmmakers behind that documentary really need to question whether they genuinely think he's a genius, especially since he was helping to conspire this insane plot to overturn our democratic process and just hand Trump victory, even though he didn't win the general election. And he had like a film crew with him the entire time. Yeah. Genius.
Well, so remember, Trump gave him a pardon on the first crime, and he was supposed to serve 40 months in prison, which is a lot. And so this is on January 20th. This is shot then. So then Stone knows Trump is officially out of office. Biden officially is in office. He will not be getting a second pardon for the crimes of planning a coup, basically, against the United States of America. But I think that's where it gets weird, because he says he would support impeachment against Trump, but impeachment is for the same crime that you're mad you didn't get pardoned for. So how could you possibly support an impeachment of Donald Trump on that when you yourself were involved in that plot? And maybe it doesn't have to make sense. It's right wingers, right?
Well, can I jump in? Because I've been thinking about that a lot as well. And I just think that it's more of this bitterness, this notion of, if I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna make sure you go down with me kind of attitude. I think that explains it. And what's amazing to me is just like the sense of entitlement that everyone involved in January 6th both had and continues to have, right? So for instance, for all the people who are currently behind bars due to their involvement, those who have been charged with sedition, they really feel like they're the victims. They feel like they were completely entitled and able to overturn the election on Trump's behalf with no consequences. And the same goes for Roger Stone. Roger Stone really thought from the get-go that if he got involved in this, if he helped Trump essentially overturn the election, he was gonna be safe no matter what, because his daddy was gonna come in, protect him, and pardon him. And when that didn't happen, he was outraged by it. So I think he's just thinking to himself and to whoever he's talking to on the phone, well, if I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna make sure he goes down with me.
Yeah, so, but being entitled, that makes sense for all the other right wingers who got involved in this plot and they think that they're entitled to win even if they don't win, because they think America is not a democracy. America is me, a white right winger. So they genuinely don't even understand what we're saying. But not for Roger Stone. Roger Stone is one of the guys who plotted this coup in the first place. And look at how panicked he sounds. He's really, really mad that he didn't get pardoned for January 6th. Hey, wait a minute, it's been like 2 years now. Has anybody charged Roger Stone? Has anybody even talked about charging Roger Stone? No. So what was he so worried about? That's what's amazing. That goes to your point, Anna, that he's not a genius. First of all, you arrogant clown, why did you allow a TV camera or a camera to follow you around everywhere, recording everything you said? Now he's really mad about it. Well, you have only yourself to blame. What an incredibly arrogant thing to do. And then he thinks, oh, okay, I can just do this coup plot. And like you said, Anna, it's okay. Trump's gonna win because if he wins, he wins. If he loses, we just do a coup and then we win again, right? But then he's wrong though. He's wrong about so many things, including having the film crew follow him, but also about that the Democrats would hold you accountable, and they would hold Trump accountable, and they would actually convict him after impeachment. Legendary Roger Stone, who theoretically knows all about politics, didn't know how incredibly weak the Democrats are? That is weird. So no, these guys are all overhyped. I think all of them are paper tigers. And the only thing the Republicans really have is, other than hatred, and that's the usual demagoguery that they use, I think they've got to have files on folks, because Roger Stone's the only guy in the world who could bully Donald Trump. Donald Trump mows down everybody else. And forget the past when Roger Stone actually said this a couple of years ago. But how about right now? Donald Trump has heard Roger Stone call his daughter an abortionist bitch daughter, not wife, but daughter of Donald Trump. And now you just heard him say that he was gonna basically help to beat Donald Trump's brains out. And Trump hasn't said a word. So it is, whatever Roger Stone has on Donald Trump, it's thermonuclear. Because
I think
Trump is so weak with him.
I think that's not a bad theory, because I mean, Trump doesn't seem to be very loving toward his kids, with one exception, and that's Ivanka Trump. And the Roger Stone video that you referenced, Cenk, is pretty freaking vicious. And so I actually pulled that up. I want you guys to take a quick look at that, and then we'll discuss.
An IQ of 70. He's coming to Miami. We will eject him from Miami very quickly. He'll be leaving very quickly. He has 100 security guards. I'll have 5,000 security guards. You want to fight? Let's fight. You and your abortionist bitch daughter.
Okay, aside from the vitriol, aside from the comment about Ivanka Trump being an abortionist daughter, I just got to point out how hilarious that clip is. Just like tough guy Roger Stone with like a Richard Nixon tramp stamp, talking about how he's a big tough guy who's got more security. I mean, I just think it's hilarious. Like that video I wanted to show you guys also for comedy's sake. But one other thing I want to note is Ivanka Trump is on the record as being anti-abortion. In fact, during an interview in 2020, she's like, I'm anti-abortion, unapologetically so. And Roger Stone, presenting himself as this anti-abortion, pro-life individual, like he cares about lives so much, except for other portions of this documentary where he's filmed talking about, killing political opponents. Let's just take a quick look at that.
The voting, let's get right to the violence.
Let's get right to it.
Shoot to kill. See an Antifa? Shoot to kill. Them. Done with this bull.
Roger Stone, famously pro-life, as you can hear from the clip we just showed you. It's insane.
Yeah, of course, Roger Stone doesn't care about abortion at all. And I don't know what Ivanka's real position on abortion is, but he didn't say that she had a position on abortion. He called her an abortionist. That means someone who got an abortion. And so I don't know if she got one or not. I have no idea. And I'm not the one making the charges. Donald Trump's best buddy is. So certainly a question Ivanka should be asked, but much more importantly, it's a question Donald Trump should be asked. Did your daughter have an abortion? And do you think we should put her in prison for it? Because your best buddy, the guy you pardoned earlier, someone who's in your mob, in your criminal enterprise, says that she's your abortionist bitch daughter. So what does he mean by that? And by the way, are you angry at him? Isn't it weird that you're not angry at him? Do you agree with him? These are all legitimate questions that should be asked of Donald Trump.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, Donald Trump has incessant diarrhea of the mouth. Like he will go after anyone who slights him, even a tiny bit. I mean, he's still going after Jeff Sessions, poor guy. But when it comes to Roger Stone, it is amazing that he's just kind of letting him say his piece without any type of pushback whatsoever. So we'll see how this develops. For now, though, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, unfortunately, over the weekend, more grotesque Kanye statements came out, including an interview he had. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how he has been reported to make a deal to purchase Parler. All of that coming right up. Don't miss it.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Anna, and Super Killer Dog are here. They just joined by hitting the join button below on YouTube. Everybody else, you can do it at tyt.com/join. Great time to be a member. We're giving away $100 gift cards every week to at least 100 members. So Casper, take it away.
All right, well, we've got some more Kanye news. This time having to do with a social media platform that we haven't actually heard much from in recent months, but nonetheless, let's discuss. Kanye West is reportedly set to acquire a social media platform for right-wingers known as Parler. Now, it's not a publicly traded company, so they don't have to disclose the health of their company. But if you look at their user numbers, Parler, not so great. If you look at the story from a broader perspective and look at it contextually, also not so great for Kanye, who might be getting scammed by right-wingers who are exploiting his mental health issues for profit. So let me give you the details and then I'll make my case. Now, Parliament Technologies, that's the company behind Parler, announced it has entered into an agreement in principle to sell Parler to Ye, who has been taking a bold stance against his recent censorship from big tech. Yes, what a bold stance to whine about being censored from, the more popular social media platforms for saying grotesque, disgusting, anti-Semitic garbage. In a statement though, Kanye said this about potentially acquiring Parler. In a world where conservative opinions are considered to be controversial, we have to make sure we have the right to freely express ourselves. I will give Kanye and other right-wingers credit for taking the mantle of conservatives being associated with anti-Semitism and hate. I mean, it's a real mask off moment. And it's amazing when you look at platforms like Facebook and Twitter where prominent Republicans, conservatives, people like Ben Shapiro are constantly trending They're constantly on top 10 lists. And you still have the audacity to claim that the right wing is being censored. No, there's certain hate speech that these platforms don't want to be associated with. So when you say something, again, grotesque and anti-Semitic, they might want to take that tweet down. But the right wing, along with Kanye, like to equate anti-Semitism to conservative thought. And I guess they're accurate in saying that. Now, the plan to close, they plan on closing this deal by the end of the year. So in the fourth quarter of 2022, of course. The CEO of Parliament Technology, though, is someone you should know about. His name is George Farmer, and he happens to be, that's right, Candace Owens's husband.
Oops.
Yeah, so this, in my opinion, might be yet another sign that Kanye's mental health issues are being exploited, not just for propaganda purposes, but also for cold hard cash. And we'll see how it plays out. But Cenk, I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, so he's definitely getting robbed, in my opinion. Now, so let me explain why. First of all, this deal's happening super quick. So sure, it's gonna take some paperwork to get to the end of the year, but they have an agreement that is solid enough for them to go public with it. And in fact, George Farmer told all the people that use Parler, I don't know if he hand wrote the 3 letters to send to them, but so it's official in that sense. That is super quick to make a deal. I don't know how long they've been talking about it, but he said that he got banned from Instagram and Twitter, what, about a week ago? Okay, so not awfully savvy to not do any of the due diligence in the deal. You could ask his friend Elon Musk about how that turned out, where Elon Musk overpaid by tens of billions for Twitter because he didn't do his due diligence. So, but when I found out that Candace Owens' husband was the guy who runs Parler, I was like, oh, okay, that explains everything. In a sense, it wasn't quick. Candace had him in that headlock for a couple of years now. Oh yeah, Kanye, you're so brave. You're so, come here, come this way, come this way. Oh, buy Parler, buy Parler. just deposited him there. Okay, so look, guys, I looked it up online. I don't know how reliable it is. There's certain parts that are more reliable than others, but they say that George Farmer is worth $180 million. So now, whether that number is exactly right or not, and take it with a giant grain of salt because it comes from some website that I didn't trust too much, but I'm telling you anyway. Why? Because they had things that were trustworthy. George Farmer's dad is called Mr. Copper in the UK because he's a copper magnate, okay? So he's, whatever the number is, he's incredibly wealthy, okay? Now the other initial investor in Parler was Rebecca Mercer. She's the daughter of Robert Mercer, one of the wealthiest hedge fund managers in the history of the world. So she has more money than God. But they're not putting any more money into Parler. Instead, they're dumping it on Kanye, or I should say his new name. I like the way you pronounce it, Anna. Yay.
Oh, it's, yeah, it is. It's yay, but that's right. That's right. I used to say ye like a loser because I didn't think about it, but it's just Kanye shortened to yay. Kanye shortened to yay. That's how you gotta remember. Except I hate calling him yay. Like it's Kanye. Okay, I'm not playing your little game.
No, Anna, you know who's calling him yay? Candace Owens.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah, it sucks that you can't really figure out what's transpiring with that company because it's not publicly traded, so they don't have to do any disclosures to investors. But I did look into their self-reporting in regard to registered users. And let's talk about that a little bit, because I think it's important to do a comparison to other social media platforms. So let's go to the last graphic here. According to reporting from TechCrunch, Parler's monthly active user base on iOS and Android is 250,000. But remember, that's active user base. This is a little dated, so who knows what the number really is today. Facebook, just for comparison's sake, Facebook has over 2.9 billion monthly active users, while Twitter has over 200 million monetizable daily active users. Twitter actually stopped reporting monthly active users back in 2019, which is great that they did because they've got a ton of bots. So the number would be incredibly deceptive if they said, oh, we've got all these active users, they're really bots. But in terms of like monetizable daily users, they say that they have 200 million. Anyway, I give you that because Parler also isn't the only right-wing social media platform, right? Truth Social, which was Trump's little project, also exists. Truth Social also isn't really doing that great. I mean, it's in terms of the number of users and the popularity. So I don't know. I feel like this is a terrible investment for Kanye. I don't think that he's in the right state of mind to purchase anything or invest in any company to this extent. I have very little sympathy for him considering the disgusting garbage and vitriol he's been spewing all over the place recently. But at the end of the day, when I look at his current mental state and I see the vultures circling around him, it just becomes clearer and clearer to me that he is being exploited for propaganda purposes, certainly, and in this case, potentially as an investor for a failing social media platform.
Yeah, look, the good news is that Kanye is going to have some, or Ye is going to have some synergies here. Because remember those garbage bags that he designed for Gap? He's going to get to put Parler in one of them. So.
Finally, some use for those garbage cans.
Yeah,
or bags.
So look, I'm a business man. So I know what these numbers mean, okay? 250,000 is awful, okay? So we have a lot of different parts of our business, TYT. But one part of it is a little bit apples and oranges, but I think you'll get a sense of scale. One part of it is the number of views we have. And that ranges between 3 to 500 million views a month. They have 250,000. Okay? I mean, it's tiny. And that's their whole business. The views are just a part of our business. That's their whole business, okay? He's buying nothing, he's buying air, okay? On top of that, they were deplatformed by Apple and Google before because of how deeply hateful they were. And when they were deplatformed from the app stores, they were like, it nearly ceased to exist, right? Now Kanye is saying, I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna bring anti-Semitism back, baby, okay?
No, it's better than that, Cenk. It's better than that because think about it. What's the whole business model for Parler, Truth Social, all these right-wing social media platforms? Oh, we don't do moderation, we're uncensored, we're raw, we let people say whatever they want. Well, that got them booted from the Android store and the Apple store. And so when they were finally able to get back on those stores, they agreed to doing what? Moderation. So
of course.
The whole business model has collapsed. And here you have a wealthy person who's struggling with a mental health issue that he's clearly not getting the treatment for and the medication for. Yeah, they're exploiting him for it. Like that's what it appears to me. And so the question is, will Kanye ever wake up to any of this? I don't know, but he is surrounded by a bunch of yes men who refuse to tell him, hey, this is a bad idea, don't do this. So he's gonna do it. We'll see how it plays out.
You took what I was gonna say, which is that you can't do anti-Semitism over the top like Ye is and not get deplatformed. So when they get deplatformed, if it was worth $10 now, it's gonna be worth $0 the minute Kanye puts his first post up. They're gonna get taken off the app stores and it's over, it's over. Why do you think they brought moderation back? Because otherwise they would cease to exist, they would be bankrupt. Why do you think they're not putting a single more dollar into that company? And so what Candace Owens did is like those low-level con men that like troll Senior Citizen Center, hoping to find a rich one and steal their money. And
Worst
so when she found Kanye, she's like, how did I get this lucky? Okay, this guy has an IQ of about 12, and I can easily convince him, all right, wait, oh yeah, you're gonna be so brave, yay, you're gonna be so brave. right? Oh yeah, he's like, finally somebody figured it out. Oh, you're a genius, yay. Oh yeah, I am, aren't I? I'm Jesus and Moses put together, isn't it? Oh, you are. Here, buy this. I bet he paid so much money for this pile of trash that's Parler. And even if everything I'm saying is wrong, which it most certainly is not, there's no way that thing's worth a dime, okay? On top of that though, you have Rumble and Parler and Gitter and True Social, and now Elon Musk is buying Twitter. So that's 5 right-wing social media sites. How many do you need? Okay, so this is an epic disaster for everyone except the Owens family, who tonight only have one word in mind. Yay.
That was excellent. I can't add more to that. We got to end it there. But for now, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back for the second hour of the show, we'll discuss the vile statements that Kanye made in a recent interview with Drink Champs. Just awful stuff about George Floyd, awful stuff that just continues this, ongoing rant that's anti-Semitic and hateful. So we've got that and more coming right up. Don't miss it.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.